The subject is the determination of nature. In other words, in the lower plane, in the physical plane, level 1 of body, life and mind, there is usually, we think that we are free, but there is no real freedom. Everything is determined by nature, universal nature. Your body, your vital and your mind are completely controlled by universal nature. Okay, so this is what we are doing. So we are reading now the next one. The passages in which the Gita lays stress. Okay, so good morning Archana ji. So, I am reading the sentences one by one. The passages in which the Gita lays stress on the subjection of the ego soul to nature have by some been understood as an enunciation of an absolute and a mechanical determinism which leaves no room for any freedom within the cosmic existence. So cosmic existence, level 1. When you are identified with your body, mind, life, and you think that all that you are seeing is real. So you are subjected to universal nature. And that determines everything. So Sremda is saying that the passages which the Gita lays stress, it seems to be that absolutely there is no freedom at all for the individual human being or even animals or plants. Everything is, the work is done by universal nature. The tree has no will. The animal has no will. But man thinks that he has a will, but actually his will is powerless. In the in the level 1, in the ignorance he has no power. He thinks he has, and Sremda says elsewhere that even this delusion that he thinks he has power is useful for life. Because if that is not there, then you won't make an effort. If someone is told that you have no will at all, then he will not make any will. He will say, then what is the use of my trying to do something? So that has got a value. Even that which is false has got a value. Okay? So Sremda is saying that the Gita seems to be laying a tremendous amount of stress on the lack of freedom, total lack of freedom in level 1, when you are identified with your body, mind, life. So Sremda is warning you that that is true at this level, but if you go to another level, it is not true. You have got freedom. Okay? And that freedom goes on increasing as you go on rising in consciousness. And as you keep coming down, the slavery to nature becomes complete. So you have to be very careful. You must not think that you cannot ever be free. You can be. When your soul comes out and goes to the higher level of consciousness, you can become free. Okay? But free also to a certain extent only. Only when you go to the highest level, you are totally free. And who is totally free? Only the divine. So we have to become the divine to be free. Okay? So it becomes a very interesting paradox. It means that when you think you are free, you are actually not free. And when you are a slave to the divine, then you have really freedom, total freedom. So that's a very big paradox. Okay. So being slave to...
Rangada?
Yes, tell me.
One question.
Yes.
The wish or the aspiration to go up, that also is an act of nature. That also is not our will, right?
Partly true when it is mental, vital body. But remember one thing, that you have a soul. And the soul has the power also to put in its... Yeah. So it's a gradation. In the beginning, when you are not conscious of your soul, the soul has no power. But when you become conscious of the soul, it has a certain amount of freedom. The soul can. But the body, mind, life, whatever effort you make, it is of no use. That's why the Gita's phrase is there, and I will read out that phrase just now to you. Okay? It says, Sadrisham cheshtate swasya prakriti jnanavanapi. Even the one who is is an intelligent man, even he is subject to nature. Prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. All human beings, all creatures, living creatures, including plants, animals and men, they follow their nature. Nature is doing the... So what will control? Nigraha. Nigraha control. What will control do? Control can't do anything. But this is true only at the level 1. When your consciousness rises to level 2, you do get freedom. And what Pallavi said is very interesting, because if there is no freedom at all, then what about that effort to go up? That effort to go up normally comes when the soul slowly awakes. When the slowly soul awakes, then you realize that you are imperfect, and then you make an effort. That effort, when it is coming from the soul, definitely it has. That's why Swayambhu says, I told you just now, even the idea that I have no will at all, even the idea that I have a will, which is largely a illusion, even that has got a usefulness. That's what he says. So you must not think that effort is useless. That is a very tamasic attitude, and that's not true. It is true that in the beginning you are a slave to nature. But the soul is not slave to nature, essentially. And the soul, if it puts in an effort, then definitely it will bear a result. It will have a result. Okay? So that's the thing. So, Swayambhu is saying in the first one that the Gita says very categorically that there is no freedom for the individual. But I read the second sentence. He is warning you. But we must take, here as elsewhere, the thought of the Gita as a whole and not force its affirmations in their solitary sense quite detached from each other. As indeed, every truth, however true in itself, yet taken apart from others, which at once limit and complete it, becomes a snare to bind the intellect and a misleading dogma. For, in reality, each is one thread of a complex weft, and no thread must be taken apart from the weft. So, this is what he's saying, and listen carefully to what he's saying. As indeed every truth, however true in itself, yet taken apart from others, which at once limit and complete. So for instance, take the ego. The ego is a barrier first. And then, it becomes a help first, and then it becomes a barrier when you want to go up. So everything, it limits and completes at another level. At one level, it limits you. At a slightly higher level, it can complete you. Okay? So this is the thing. Becomes a snare to bind the intellect and a misleading dogma. So never take anything as absolute. The only two absolutes in the physical world are the inconscient, that is absolute, and the superconscient. They are the only two things which are absolute. All the rest are gradations of complete and incomplete, of perfect and imperfect, everything. And as you keep going, this gradation goes on changing. There is no gradation at the highest level, and there is no gradation at the lowest level. The rest is all, there is gradation. For in reality, each one is a thread of a complex web. So it's like you are a bundle of threads, all colored threads. And each one, if you take, and if you stress that that's the only one, then you are mistaken. You must take all the threads together. Then it becomes very clear. That's what, historically, that's a mistake that man has been making for a long time. First he thought he is only the body. Okay? The primitive man thought that he is only the body. Then when the intellect rose up a little bit, There is the theory of Bergson. Bergson said this, vital is along with all. And he said that body is not the main thing, but the vital urge in man is the main thing. Then that also was overtaken by Descartes. René Descartes. Je suis donc, je pense donc je suis. I think, therefore I am. So that goes to the mental level. Each of these theories are all partially true, partially untrue. And finally, Srivastava says in one place, neither of these three are right. You are and you exist because you have a soul. So these four things are there, and you must realize that everything has to be taken in completeness. That's why they use the words Krishnavit and Akrishnavit. Krishnavit means one who knows the whole. And when do you know the whole? When you go to the higher levels of consciousness, the whole becomes more and more complete as you keep going up higher and higher. Mother says something very interesting. She says you can know the divine only when you know the whole universe at the same time, not part of the universe. So that explains very clearly you must not be overtaken by one aspect only of the divine. So it is true that you are a slave at the lower level, but if you shift to the soul, then you have a freedom. You do have a freedom. And the soul is there in everybody. You may not be conscious of it, but the soul is there. So every effort that man makes, even whatever the effort be, okay, it is definitely being contributed to by the soul. That's what they're saying here. Then, I read the next sentence. Everything...
Can I ask you something?
Go ahead.
How can one know the whole universe?
Only when you become the divine. That's what Mother is saying. You can't
Yeah,
know.
but she said when you know the universe, you become the divine. But how can you know the universe? It is like the hen and the egg. Who came first?
You are thinking of it in a serial manner, in a causal manner. It's not like that. You can also say the same thing in the other way. When you know the divine, then you can know the universe fully. But because man is first trying to understand, he understands the physical. Then when science is trying to understand the physical, the laws of the physical world, and then you realize that no, the physical world is not the only one. So there's a gradation as you keep going up and up and up and up. So when you go to the highest level, then when you know the whole universe, then you can be the divine. We will not get mixed up with words and get confused with words. Okay? There you say, when you know the divine fully, you know the whole universe fully. Okay, so I read the next sentence. Everything in the Gita is even so interwoven and must be understood in its relation to the whole. The Gita itself makes a distinction between those who have not the knowledge of the whole. Akrishnavit. The word Krishna means full. Vida means those who know the whole. So Akrishnavida are those who are in level 1 who don't know the whole. They don't even know part of the world in which they live. Okay? And are misled by the partial truths of existence. Okay? So, this is in chapter 3, verse 29. Okay? And I'll read the shloka after I finish the sentence. The Gita itself makes a distinction between those who have not the knowledge of the whole, Akrishnavida, and are misled by the partial truths of existence, and the yogin who has the synthetic knowledge of the totality, Krishnavit. So the Gita makes a difference between the one who knows the whole and the one who does not know the whole. And it is chapter 3, verse 29. Prakritir guna sammura sajjante guna karmasu tan akrisnavido mandan isnavit na vichalaye. So what is saying, the Gita is saying, those who are completely under the sway of Prakriti, they attach themselves to all the works. Okay? They think that the work they are doing is they are doing. But those who are not knowing the whole, their lesser knowledge, their ignorance should not be disturbed by this truth. Because if you disturb them with a higher knowledge, they will get completely muddled up. They will not know. So only when a person is fit for a certain knowledge, that knowledge should be given to him. Otherwise, there will be total chaos. And that's true of everything, huh? Of everything. When you are ready for the truth, then you should be given. Okay, so I go to the next one. A certain absolute freedom is one aspect of the soul's relation with nature at one pole of our complex being. A certain absolute determinism by nature is the opposite aspect at its opposite pole. So which pole is which? The pole which is at the physical level, the level 1, is the one in which there is absolute determinism by nature. Nature completely controls you. But when you rise in consciousness and go to the higher levels of consciousness, the freedom starts showing itself. You realize that you have a choice, you have a will. Okay? So every choice that you make at level 1, our level 1, is actually determined by nature. So you think that you are making a choice, but actually it's not a choice. It's a compulsion. You are compelled to do that. Okay, that's what is being said by the Gita here. Okay? A certain absolute freedom is at the highest level, is one aspect of the soul's relation with nature at one pole of our complex being. Purusha completely dominates nature, Purusha dominates Prakriti at the highest level. At the lowest level, Prakriti determines and enslaves the Purusha. The Purusha is actually, consciousness is not there in matter. That's exactly what is being said. Consciousness is completely subjugated by matter. In matter there is only force. Consciousness is there, potent, inherent, but it does not show itself. It is absolutely incapacitated. As the consciousness rises slowly, Prakriti starts becoming slave. And you start controlling nature. This is the truth that is being said, told to us. So, a certain absolute freedom is one aspect of the soul's relation with nature at one pole of our complex being. Which is that pole? The highest pole. A certain absolute determinism by nature, no freedom at all, is the opposite aspect at its opposite pole, and that is matter, spirit and matter. And then he continues, and there is also a partial and apparent, therefore an unreal eidolon of liberty, which the soul receives by contorted reflection of these two opposite truths in the developing mentality. Eidolon, the word means a spectral phantom. Okay? It's not a reality. So this freedom that you feel that you have is actually a phantasm. It's not true. Okay? But even that is useful. Okay? So, if that is not there, then you will not make an effort. It is the latter to which we ordinarily give, more or less inaccurately, the name of free will. The soul, the man that thinks that he has a free will, it is inaccurate. But even that, okay, is a useful thing in the ignorance. Inaccurately, the name of free will. Inaccurate because it is not really a free will. But the Gita regards nothing as freedom which is not a complete liberation and mastery. So, even the yogis who go to the second level, it is not complete freedom. There is a lot of freedom there at the higher level, higher mind, eleven mind, intuitive mind, over mind. But the real freedom comes only at the third level, the super mind. Okay? That's what he said. It is the latter to which we ordinarily give more or less inaccurately the name of free will. But the Gita regards nothing as freedom. Okay? So, which is not a complete liberation and mastery. So as I said, I can repeat that. I am reading what I have written at the bottom of the page. Strangely enough, real free will is attained when complete surrender to God is achieved. When Sarvarambha Parityagi, whatever you are initiating action, is given up. No initiation of action at all on your part. The God, the divine is guiding you and using you as a puppet. That is true freedom. Individual will gets merged with the divine will, then that is freedom. And action then becomes a spontaneous outflow of truth by the divine. The divine is using your body, mind, life as his instruments. Then you are free, not otherwise. Okay, so this is what Gita is saying. So be careful, don't think that you have no free will. It is true that you don't have any free will at this level if you identify yourself with the body, mind, life. But the moment you become conscious of your soul, you know and you have a little bit of power to aspire and rise in consciousness. That's why you make the effort. Otherwise yoga would not be possible. And is it not true that when you are identified with your body, mind, life, then you are not interested in yoga? The interest in yoga comes when there is a slight connection with the soul. Then only there is yoga. You want to become better than what you are. Okay? So, we read the next para. We have always to keep in mind. It's about almost one page. Who will read? Sima, do you have the text?
Sorry, Dada. Good morning. Sorry, Dada. I did that.
You don't have the text.
Shall I read?
Yeah, you can read.
We have always to keep in mind the two great doctrines which stand behind all the Gita's teaching with regard to the soul and nature. The Sankhya
Your voice is failed, Shilpa.
and the truth of the threefold Purusha, and the double Prakriti, of which the lower form is the Maya of the three gunas and the higher is the divine nature and the true soul nature. This is the key which reconciles and explains what we might have otherwise to leave as contradiction.
Your internet is not steady.
Oh, wait a minute.
Your,
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait.
It's still fluctuating.
Yes.
I think somebody else should read. Kiran, you have the text with you?
Yes, Ranga.
Okay, then I think you read. Start from the beginning of the para.
Yes, Ranga. We have always to keep in mind the two great doctrines which stand behind all the Gita's teachings with regard to the soul and nature. The Sankhya, truth of the Purusha and Prakriti, corrected and completed by the Vedantic truth of the threefold Purusha and the double Prakriti, of which the lower form is the Maya of the three gunas and the higher is the divine nature and the true soul nature. This is the key which reconciles and explains what we might have otherwise to leave as contradictions and inconsistencies. There are, in fact, different planes of our conscious existence, and what is practical truth on one plane ceases to be true because it assumes a quite different appearance as soon as we rise to a higher level from which we can see things more in the whole. Recent scientific discovery has shown that man, animal, plant and even the metal have essentially the same vital reactions, and they would therefore if each has a certain kind of what, for want of a better word, we must call nervous consciousness, and possesses the same basis of mechanical psychology. Yet if each of these could give its own mental account of what it experiences, we should have four quite different and largely contradictory statements of the same reactions and the same natural principles, because they get, as we rise in the scale of being, a different meaning and value and have to be judged by a different outlook. So it is with the levels of the human soul. What we now call is in our ordinary mentality, our free will, and have a certain limited justification for so calling it, yet appears to the yogin who has climbed beyond and to whom our night is day and our day night. Not free will at all, but a subjection to the modes of nature. He regards the same facts, but from the higher outlook of the whole knower, Kritsnavid, while we view it altogether from the more limited mentality of our partial knowledge, Akritsnavidaha, which is an ignorance, what we want of as our freedom is to him bondage.
Yeah. So this para is a lot of things to be discussed. So we'll start one by one. Okay? I don't think we'll be able to finish it. We have always to keep in mind the two great doctrines which stand behind all the Gita's teachings with regard to the soul and nature. So what are the two doctrines? One is the Sankhya philosophy and the other is the Vedantic philosophy. These are the two great doctrines. And each one completes the other. Sankhya is true at its own level, but it is not true at a higher level. Things change and Vedanta gives you a higher level. Okay? So that's what Srila is explaining. The Sankhya truth of the Purusha and Prakriti and nature. Purusha and Prakriti, where am I? Yeah, the Sankhya truth of the Purusha and Prakriti corrected and completed by the Vedantic truth of the threefold Purusha and double Prakriti. So we'll go into a little detail and explain this. The Sankhya says that there are two fundamental principles in existence. One is consciousness and one is force. And these two are always connected to each other, but they are never equal. Okay? Each one is principle in itself, and the two have to combine to create creation. This true at the physical level also, because when man and woman come together only there is creation. Otherwise there can be no creation. So Gita, the Sankhya is true at a certain level, but not true at another level. So, but this Vedantic truth is more correct. Vedantic truth is saying that there are three levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is level 1 is what is called Kshara Purusha. Kshara, the mutable consciousness. Okay? Level 2 is the Akshara Purusha. That means to say there is no movement there at all. It is the Brahmic consciousness. And level 3 is the Uttama Purusha. Purushottama. So if this is there, then you can see now you have to take both, and the Gita takes both and uses both, Sankhya as well as Vedanta. If you take these two things together, then you get the whole picture. That's what Srila is pointing out. So, Purusha and Prakriti in Sankhya are the only two principles that exist. And they interchange and interact with each other at all levels. The Sankhya says, I told you once, no? The force is like a blind man. But he has got legs, so he can move. Movement is there in force. And consciousness is sight. He has got eyes. He is not blind, but he has got no action. That's when you go to the Brahmic consciousness, you are fully conscious, but you have no power over the body-mind life. So this is like if you want to cross a forest, the man with the sight, that is consciousness, has to sit on the shoulders of the man who has got legs. And together they can cross the forest. So that's why the two have to be always there for action in the universe. The two have to always interact with each other. That's the Sankhya philosophy. But the Vedanta philosophy is quite different. They talk of three levels. The Kshara Purusha, the mutable, where you are in ignorance. Then you go to the Brahmic consciousness level 2, which is the Akshara Purusha, the immutable. Consciousness, but no power. Immutable. No movement at all. And the third level, Uttama Purusha, Purushottama, where consciousness and power are complementing each other. No one is under each other. In the other philosophies, in matter, consciousness is completely a slave to force. There is no consciousness in force. But as you keep going up, consciousness starts becoming more and more obvious, and in the Brahmic consciousness is full, but force is not there. Force is controlled. And that's why there is no movement. It's immutable. Force and movement always go together, and consciousness is static, but it's got knowledge. So, consciousness, knowledge and action. Okay? This is what is being said. You have to take both together. That's what is being said. Okay? Then he is also talking about Vedantic, the double Prakriti. In Sankhya, there is only one Prakriti. But in Vedanta, there is double Prakriti. Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. Para Prakriti is the higher Prakriti, the divine nature. And when that divine nature comes down for manifestation, it slowly undergoes reduction and falsification a little bit. And when it comes down at our level, nature becomes mechanical, unconscious. And that's it. Apara Prakriti, not the higher Prakriti. Okay? And that is why it is only force, no consciousness at all. Clear? So these are the two things that have to be completely, all the time combined in reading the Gita. So, completed by the Vedantic through the threefold Purusha and the double Prakriti. There is no double Prakriti in Sankhya, only one Prakriti. Then, double Prakriti, of which the lower form is the Maya of the three gunas. The lower form, Apara Prakriti, is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. These are the three. And the higher is the divine nature and the true soul nature. So the nature also, each soul has got its own nature. No? We have seen that. Then we discuss a little more, then you come to the four main aspects of the soul. The knowledge aspect, the action aspect, the force aspect, and then you come to the production aspect, the interchange aspect, and then finally the servitude. Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So, this is what is being said here. This is the key. I am reading the next sentence. This is the key which reconciles and explains what we might have otherwise to leave as contradictions and inconsistencies. So, if it is only Sankhya, then it is true only at one level. And if you see the Vedanta, it is true at the other level, that would become more complete. Otherwise, you have contradictions and you feel that all these are contradictory things. The Advaita and the Dvaita, okay, all these become opposite things. So you have to see the whole. That's what the Gita does. This is the key which reconciles and explains what we might have otherwise to leave as contradictions and inconsistencies. There are, in fact, different planes of our conscious existence. This is one thing we have to always keep in mind. There are planes, and infinite planes are there actually, but infinite when it is very difficult to deal with it practically. So the Vedas speak of 7 planes of consciousness, and Sri Aurobindo follows that. Mother speaks of 12 planes of consciousness. And you can say, in one sense, that there is no plane at all. Spirit and matter are one, and there may be a gradation, and they are actually one. So it depends on how you are looking at things. You can say that there is only oneness, Advaita, or you can say no, there is Dvaita. Okay, Dvaita means two, spirit and matter are different, or you can say there is a gradation like in Vedanta, and there are 7 planes of consciousness. Srivendra himself says that these 7 planes you can enlarge, because each millimeter that you go up, the view and the consciousness changes. So, what is true at one level is not true at another level. Okay, so there are in fact different planes of our conscious existence, and what is practical truth on one plane ceases to be true because it assumes a quite different appearance as soon as we rise to a higher level from which we can see things more in the whole. Recent scientific discovery has shown that man, animal, plant, and even the metal have essentially the same vital reactions, and they would therefore, if each has a certain kind of what, for want of a better word, we must call nervous consciousness, possess the same basis of mechanical psychology. He is referring to J.C. Bose's experiment in which he showed that when muscle tissue is electrode is put into the muscle tissue and is given an impulse, it shows a certain pattern on the oscillograph. And if you take that and put in a plant, the same pattern comes up. And if you put in metal also and give that electric impulse, then again the same pattern comes up. This is what happened to J.C. Bose when he was in London and he was giving a lecture and he showed this what is it called? Electrode. When you put an electrode, it gives an oscillograph. Okay, oscilloscope. It gives a graph. It inks a graph like that. Okay, so that pattern was the same. So when he was in London, he was giving a lecture and he showed one and said, "Gentlemen, what is this? The pattern that you are seeing on the oscilloscope. What is this pattern?" So this was very clear. It is a muscle tissue reaction. Then he showed another one and said, "What is this?" They said, "It's the same." He said, "No, sorry, gentlemen, this is from a plant." And then he showed also from a metal. So that's what Shraddha is referring to here. Okay?
It is called electrophysiology.
Okay. So that's what he's pointing out here. Then he's saying, mechanical psychology is calling it. Okay? Yet, if each of these could give its own mental account of what it experiences, we should have 4 quite different and largely contradictory statements of the same reactions and the same natural principles. You will have to. And what are the 4? Man, animal, plant and matter. So these 4, mentally if you try to interpret, you will get 4 different views. But if you see, basically they are all the same. That's what I will point out. Okay? We should have 4 quite different, largely contradictory statements of the same reactions and of the same natural principles. Because they get, as we rise in the scale of being, a different meaning and value and have to be judged by a different outlook. So it is with the levels of human soul. The word so, Swamitra uses it in this way. He says, thus, it is like this. He uses it in that way. So it is with the levels of human soul. What we now call in our ordinary mentality, our free will, and have a certain limited justification for so calling it, yet appears to the yogin who has climbed beyond and to whom our night is day and our day is night, not free will at all, but a subjection to the modes of nature. So what he's saying is, at our level we feel we are free. When you go to the higher level of consciousness, Brahmic consciousness, you realize that you are not free at all. That is the experience of yogins when they realize that you are not the doer of action. It is universal force which is acting. You thought that you were acting, but no, you are only one puppet, which universal nature is jostling and pushing and making you act. Okay? So the Gita compares it to night and day. What is day at our level is night to the yogin. And what is day to the yogin is night to us. Okay? In the chapter 2, verse 64. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha parshato mune. So, the one who is, we think that we are in day. Okay? We see daylight and we think that this is day. But actually it is night for the yogin. What do you mean by that? It is night because of ignorance. You are totally in ignorance and the consciousness is in night. For a yogin, when he looks at us. But when you go up, which is day to the yogin, that is knowledge to the yogin, we are absolutely ignorant of it. Therefore it is night for us. Okay? So beautiful, a very beautiful image of the Gita. Day and night. Day is knowledge, night is ignorance. So it will not change. That's what Swami is saying. So he's saying finally, what we want means boast. Okay? Praise. What we want, we boast of as our freedom, is to him bondage. So when you go to the Brahmic consciousness, you realize that you are a slave, not otherwise. Okay? So we stop here today. Next time we'll do the perception of the ignorance. Okay? Have a nice day. We are stopping.
Thank you, Ranga.
Merci Rangada, au revoir.
Thank you,
Bonne
Ranga.
journée.
Thank you, Dada. Merci beaucoup.
Shilpa, correct your internet connection.